Looking for the king of podcasts? You're at the wrong channel. Looking for good ideas for life? You are far from good hands. If you think the listener is always right, you are far from the right place. Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, a rebel by choice. If you want a host that floats between love and madness, then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
What up? Excuse me while I whip this out. Oh, gnarly! Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
And good evening, friends!
Not all football helmets are created equal. Zenith, the industry leader in protective technology, is the only helmet in the game with adaptive head protection featuring a shock suspension system that can move independently from the helmet shell. Headquartered and developed in Detroit, Zenith is committed to player safety and revolutionary innovation. Zenith is proud to protect athletes at every level from Pee Wee to the pros. Learn more about the Zenith difference at zenith.com. That's XENITH.com.
What's up, Doc?
I'll tell you what's up. Based out of Atlantic City, New Jersey, Geek Time Entertainment runs exclusively along with different events in the area to strategize with their partners who will benefit with increased exposure and patron traffic.
Oh, gnarly!
Geek Time Entertainment will work with your event in increasing the event's traffic via social media, radio, and storefront advertisements.
Holy cow!
Also, they will help increase business for your company and event with different sales incentives.
Duh.
Whether your event will be small or even mid-scale, Geek Time Entertainment is the group to work with.
That's what I'm talking about.
Contact them today at geektimeentertainment@gmail.com or facebook.com/geektimeentertainment.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Hi, my name is Ariel Teal Toombs, daughter of the legendary Rowdy Roddy Piper and sister of the less legendary Colt Toombs, and you are listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Alright folks, we are catching him at about 8:30 in the morning West Coast time because he is actually, shortly after this, he is going to be hopping on a plane, and unfortunately for him, he's probably going to land in Newark. But anyway, unfortunately he's going, or coming to New Jersey, depending on when you hear this, for the New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival to be a part of the Back to the Future reunion. Check out their site if you're going to go this weekend, horrorcon.com. Jeffrey Weissman, how you doing, sir?
I'm waking up. How are you doing?
No complaints on my end. So, obviously, like I said there for the intro, going to be doing a Back to the Future reunion.
Yeah, so to clarify, it's Back to the Future Part 2.
Okay. So, folks, you're going to want to come out and see this if you're a fan of the series or just a movie. Either way, go out. How many of these things do you usually try to do a year? Do you do them often? Whether it's just as going solo or a reunion?
You know, I'll do a handful. It depends really on the year. If it's an anniversary year, it seems that there's more attention and more shows that invite me and other cast members. It's mainly, Michael, Leah, and Christopher. Although Michael, for many years, didn't do any reunions. He showed up at the Hollywood show in 2008 unannounced, and he got mobbed. It was quite something. And then a year ago, no, I'm sorry, was it? Yeah. The London Film and Comic Con wanted to do a reunion for the anniversary. It was 35th anniversary of the first film. And the owner of that show, who I had been the guest of before at his London Film Comic Con and his show, The Collector Mania in Milton Keynes, said, Jeffrey, how do I get Tom Wilson, how do I get Michael J. Fox to come to my reunion? I love Back to the Future. I love you guys. And I said, well, Tom, generally doesn't do Back to the Future related stuff because he's tried to distance himself from the character of Biff. He doesn't like being pigeonholed, and he's tired of people calling him a butthead or doing impressions, and maybe some other business things that may have gone on. And then Michael, it's just, he's so busy, and on top of being sick, it's hard for him to juggle so many things. But I said, I'll write Tom. I'll let him know how wonderfully you treated me. I'll try to nudge him in your direction. And then with Michael, just make it a charity for his Parkinson's Foundation. And sure enough, Michael did that show. I'm not sure what the 5 or 6 figures that the owner of that show gave to the charity, but Michael came out, did the show. We all 11 of the cast members that were there signed a Gibson guitar that's auctioned off for $20,000. Lots of money went to the charity. And since that show, Michael has been doing shows across the United States. He was in Silicon Valley, and he was at New Orleans, and various other shows. And Tom now is doing shows, and it's really lovely to see Tom embrace the fans. The fans have been begging for him for years. Fans have been begging for Michael to come do the shows for years, and finally it's happening. So I, kind of fall through the cracks in that I was not a major player until co-starring in Part 2. I had previously done films with Clint Eastwood and Michael Keaton and John Lithgow, various other great film directors like George Miller and Clint Eastwood, and those didn't necessarily rate me as the Comic-Con category, even though Twilight Zone was a horror science fiction film. My role in it was minimal. But now, since Back to the Future has been embraced as such a classic, I'm invited to shows every so often. And like I said, if it's an anniversary year, they are generally more apt to bring me in instead of just the big 3.
Yeah, so, let me touch on them now because you mentioned it there during your answer. And I guess I will let the folks know who will hear this prior to the con, during the con, and afterwards, because depending on what medium they catch us on. Right. You mentioned that you have done a variety of different things. You've worked for Clint Eastwood in the mid-'80s. You played the Teddy Conway character. You've done theater. You've done TV. You've done many different things throughout your career. You're definitely a working actor, I would say. Categorize you as. I'm curious to know which medium throughout your career that you've done, whether it be film, TV, theater, whatever it may be. Is there a certain medium that you enjoy doing more than the others?
That is such a tough question for me because I was weaned, of course, on stage in my school years and always loved doing film. I knew not well, but through my parents' connections, had met some very big stars. And I was always fascinated with film. But my first thrills were audience reactions, the immediate reaction to my antics or performances, whether in comedy or drama on stage. And that is a great reward. And I've continued acting on stage. I'm just wrapping up my participation in a very intense, immersive theater event in San Francisco where the audience actually walks with the characters through the environments and follows them in a 1923 speakeasy. And I'm part of a vaudeville team in that, where I sing and dance and do comedy and drama. And the immediacy of the reaction of the audience is wonderful. I also, for many, many years, have done improvisation. and a lot with some greats, Brad Sherwood from Whose Line Is It Anyway, Wayne Brady and Greg Proops and Michael McShane. And when you're flying without a net, when you don't know where the story is going to go, but you're working correctly and you're listening and you're really working with your team, it's transcendent. Sometimes the story just finds itself and wonderful things happen, and it's magic. That is pure magic. And I also enjoy the magic that can happen on the set for shooting a movie or a TV show. I have a PBS special being released. I'm not sure when this year, but later this year, that I shot several years ago playing Mark Twain. And we went to Israel, the Holy Land, to recreate scenes from his visit there in 1867. And I was able, because of the notoriety of being from Hollywood and making this movie, able to get shots that otherwise you probably wouldn't have been able to get, because I asserted myself. We went to the Holy Sepulchre to get a scene of Twain praying at Jesus' tomb. He loved his mother so much and brought her back a wooden covered Bible and visited the Holy Sepulchre. And all the whole day that we were shooting there, we couldn't get into Jesus' tomb to get this shot we wanted. And we had to leave. Time was running out. And earlier in the day, I had opened a conversation, made friends with a Palestinian janitor who was like, "Oh, Hollywood, oh, I'm so impressed," And at the end of the day, I noticed Jesus' tomb, and this was as we were leaving, was closed for maintenance. They were scraping chewing gum off the tiles. And I saw the Palestinian janitor. I said, "Do you think we might get a shot here? We've been hoping to get in here all day, and cavalry or the Roman Catholics, everyone's had it booked all day." And I said, "Hollywood, come in." And we got this $1 million shot that was really an impossible thing to get. But because of this love of Hollywood from this Palestinian janitor, we were able to get it. And similarly, shots in the Damascus Gate and at the Wailing Wall, we were able to get because of that sort of magic that can happen. And on the set, I've done films where the director has been open to me using my improv skills and working with the script and studying hard and being prepared, adding other elements, whether it's physical or dialogue or what have you, to the story and to the script. And that is a real gift. And to see then the final cut in front of an audience and getting the reaction and seeing how things work and with the editor's storytelling gifts, it's very exciting. It's very similar to getting that audience reaction in live theater, only you're sitting in that audience.
Yeah, and you actually hinted within the first two questions here as far as your answers, things I've had in the notes. But the first one being that you mentioned the adrenaline rush of performing. Do you notice a difference in adrenaline, in terms of getting that performer's angst up or whatever you want to call it, when working with a live audience in terms of improv or straight from the script compared to, or in the theater, I should say, compared to when you're doing film for either TV
sure.
movie?
It is a different animal in that on the film set, generally you try to stay calm, centered, concentrated, focused, and if you need to be pumped up for a scene, you do what it takes to get pumped up. Example, when Daddy's getting shot in Pale Rider from head to toe, the Clint Eastwood film, I used whatever I had in my bag of tricks for my acting skills at that time, sense memory, fantasy charging, or just, really getting into the moment and believing what's going on. And that it will initiate being pumped up, even, using the surroundings of being surrounded by great talent like Michael Moriarty and Carrie Snodgrass and Richard Hamilton in that scene, and all those great talents that were the deputies and John Russell. That for me was also exciting too. So the adrenaline was pumping then. On top of it, we had this environmental thing where the wind and the cold was just cutting right through us. The set was built on the top of a mountain, so it was pretty much 10 below with the wind chill factor. So it was incredibly adrenaline creating for the shot, and believing that my father's just been shot between the eyes here. That is something you create for the take. Now, to sustain that is extremely hard, and to sustain it take after take. It took us 3 days to shoot that one scene, and the cold also made it when I cried, and I was able to generate tears, but it was so cold that the tears froze in my eyes. Anyway, there's these challenges that create the adrenaline on the set, but the adrenaline rush, say from doing an incredible performance in an improv show or an incredible performance that's scripted in front of 1,500 people in a theater, is the same but different. I mean, it's as exciting, but it's also immediately gratifying, whereas on the set, you don't know what the final cut's going to be. It'll be gratifying that you hit your marks and the colors, got the colors you want in your performance, but you really don't know until the final cut. Example, on Back to the Future, Zemeckis liked several things I did. I improvised eating a piece of fruit. You remember in the McFly household of 2015, there was a fruit, please, and there was a little bit where Lorraine says to Marty Jr., give your granddad a piece of fruit, and I try to eat a banana upside down, and the peel keeps slapping me in the face. It was very funny stuff, but it didn't make the final cut. And then also for pizza, when the pizza comes out of the hydrator in 15 seconds, fully cooked, George actually rotates his axis. If you remember, I'm hanging upside down as old George McFly, and I rotated my axis to eat the pizza. There was the whole special effect that we did, and it just didn't match, I guess, and it didn't make the final cut. So it's really a lot also up to the editor if the audience is going to see some fun things that you may have come up with on the set. In Pale Rider, I had my character, he was kind of a half-wit, and anything exciting happened, his legs would go out from under him, and he'd fall on his ass. And there were probably a handful of times that I did that in takes, and Clint liked them, but he didn't keep them in the film, in the final cut.
Well, you mentioned your character acting and different things like that, and past experiences. I always thought it was pretty interesting when I was reading your background and history and stuff, that you've done Groucho Marx and Stan Laurel and different characters like that were legendary as far as, I guess, look-alike work is the best way to put it. Would you say that kind of work led you to getting hired for Back to the Future and other projects?
Maybe. I had been working in the industry doing films, commercial, and television, and in between jobs fell into that type of work, working at Universal Studios on their tour as Stan Laurel, and then developed playing Charlie Chaplin and then Groucho Marx, and now I even have a Three Stooges team playing Larry Fine. And I was doing that kind of work when I got a call from an agent who did handle lookalikes, because he was offering production photo doubles for Michael J. Fox, and they were on the search for one for Crispin. And when I got the call, I knew that the sequels to Back to the Future were in the works, and I said, get me in there. I'd love to meet them. And because I think of my previous work in film, that I was credible. And then we started doing makeup fittings and makeup tests. My thought at the time, because as far as I knew, Crispin was still part of the project, that they needed George in multiple places at the same time, like they needed Michael in multiple places at the same time. That's why Kevin, who doubled for Michael, was hired. When Michael's on stage playing guitar, Kevin's above him, crawling across the up above, and vice versa when they needed Michael's close-ups. So it was really shocking news to me that Crispin was out, and then that news came in the 11th hour before, on the Friday, pretty much before they wanted to start shooting on the Monday. And I couldn't fathom how they could do the film without him. But as you can see, they spliced in a few shots of him, and then the rest is my work. Even knocking Biff out and kissing Lorraine at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Most people don't realize that it's a different actor.
Yeah, well, final question for me, and because we know you're going to have to get ready to head to the airport soon. And this is more of, I guess, fan question based from my some of my stuff I really enjoy. And you mentioned doing some comedy work. You've worked on a musical version of Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan. And I've always said that you can't, if Mel tried to do the stuff he's known for today, I don't think it could be done. However, would you agree with that first off?
Well, he has redefined the pieces by doing the musical of The Producers and then more recently the musical of Young Frankenstein, which for me was a sort of a fantasy come true. I was a kid, I was 14 years old, and heard that Mel was shooting in my neighborhood there in Santa Monica in California, and I walked home through this promenade there and started seeing people dressed in Victorian outfits, and there was a gentleman whose mustache was coming off. I said, "Sir, your mustache is flying." And "Oh, is it? Oh, thank you. Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm an actor," and listed the shows that I'd been in my junior high and high school. And he said, "Oh, really? Would you like to meet Mel?" And he actually took me to the set of the Mayfair Music Hall where they were shooting the Puttin' on the Ritz number. And I got to meet Mel briefly and Peter Boyle and also hung out for a little bit with Marty Feldman, who was the first man I'd ever seen wearing a merce, a man's purse. And, all right, so flash forward, 35 years, a theater approached me and asked if I would consider playing Igor, the Marty Feldman role, in the musical version of Young Frankenstein. And it had been a number of years since I tap danced and sang and danced in a show, so it was extremely hard for this old guy to pull it together, but I did and got nominated for a Critics Award up here in the Bay Area. So I was very pleased that I dusted off and got up there and participated because the show was so much fun. And I think most of Mel's films, some are okay, but not as classic as others. But Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, The Producers, they transcend time periods. They're going to be classics forever, even though there is politically incorrect stuff in Blazing Saddles, and there's blatant heavy-handedness in a lot of his stuff. It's still just delightful. And the history, first of all, Mel's writing and the stuff that Gene Wilder and he collaborated on, and Richard Pryor and he collaborated on, it just is magnificent stuff, and will always be celebrated. In fact, my Marx Brothers team auditioned for Mel for Men in Tights for the big banquet scene, and he loved us. A few years later, I ran into him, and he said, "Oh, I loved you guys, but I had to cut you because the guy playing Don Corleone wanted more money," which turned out to be Dom DeLuise, who we were standing with, and I just turned to Dom and started choking him. But it was comedy.
Yeah. Well, folks, Jeffrey's going to be going to the New Jersey Horror Con up in North Jersey.
That's right.
And NewJerseyHorrorCon.com.
I hope you come out and say hi.
If people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
I have a fan page on Facebook, Jeffrey Weissman, Weissman. Visit my IMDb. It always helps if someone visits and clicks. It helps those ratings. Not that I get a lot of offers of work through that, but it may happen. I have a film streaming on Amazon right now called Savior of None, which is a very heavy drama in which I play an epileptic, depressed widower who befriends a girl who's being abused in the foster care system. It's a very good film. Also, I have a short that's a sort of a pilot for a series or feature called The Traveler. And that's streaming also on Amazon, and we'll be screening at the film festivals there in New Jersey, part of the HorrorCon.
Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
With over 30 years of experience and a superb reputation for being a detail-oriented company, Lacey Cleaning has some of the highest work standards in the cleaning business.
That's the fact, Jack!
Whether it's carpet cleaning, tile, grout cleaning, new construction cleanup, rental turnovers, vent and duct cleaning, odor elimination, office and or business cleaning, power washing, residential cleaning, you name it, they do it. Woo! Check them out. To contact them today, laceycleaning@gmail.com or call them at 609-709-8536.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, this is Bruce Pritchard, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio, and don't ever forget, I love you.